yet another video of your SST chapter. This time it is Civics and the name of your chapter is Democracy. So let's do chapter 1 Democracy from your Civics. Right, so what am I going to teach you? I will teach you what is democracy, where did it start, how did it start in England, France and America. What are the main principles of democracy? What is the process of decision making? The three organs of the state and what do they do? Two forms of democracy, difference between direct and indirect democracy, government, types of government, important terms. Now, very important. In the last, I have a special section for you, Let's Revise, where I revise all possible questions from the chapter. So let's start. First of all, where does the word democracy come from? Now, the word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, which means people, and kratos, meaning rule or government. So it is rule by people. So Abraham Lincoln polished this definition. He said it is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But there are other definitions of democracy as well. Whenever there's a question on what is a democracy, so you can write the definition by Abraham Lincoln. But if you want another one, I have given you two more definitions. Now, democracy is a form of government in which people freely participate in the governance of the country. The other definition could be democracy is a political system in which all the members of the society have an equal share of formal political power. Now, so what is democracy based on? It is based on a very basic principle, and that principle is that authority comes from public, which means the ruler and the ruled are the same. Now, this was never possible in the ancient times or even in the medieval times when there was a monarch, there was a ruler, and they were his subjects. So the ruler and the subjects were not the same. But in democracy, it is the same. Now, you will say how? Now, if you read in your book, there's a special paragraph on the preamble. It says, in the preamble, it's written, we the people of India, we the people constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, which means the power has been given to the people. It is the people which have made India. In short, it refers to rule of people or their representatives. Now, this is what we will be talking about, the direct, that is directly the people rule, indirect through their representatives. But one thing is clear, that people are the source of political authority. Now, this democracy, you find the traces of democracy in Greek states, notably in Athens, in the middle of 5th and 4th century BC. Now, democracy, that means it started from ancient Athens. So, do you think it could be in our India as well? Yes, even in India, it was in Vaji Republic. Today's modern day Vishali, Bihar, it had its origin in this republic. Now, it's not that only these two places had democracy. The democracies also evolved in ancient Rome, Europe, North and South America. All these cultures also promoted democracy. Now, if I talk about democracy, I would say that democracy has been called the last form of government and the very best form of government. I also told you in my first slide that what I will be teaching you. So I have taught you first thing, what is democracy? Now, how did democracy start? We talked about Athens, we talked about Vaji. We also talked at how Europe, America, they contributed towards the development of democracy. So let's see what happened in Europe. In Europe, in the 14th century, the political system at that time in Europe was feudal system. So this feudal system declined. It developed into nationalism. The word nationalism means the feeling that we belong to one nation, the feeling of unity, and representative democracy, where we have the power to influence the government, to take part in the decisions, but not directly, but through our elected representative. So when there was a decline in feudalism, there was development of nationalism, representative democracy, it resulted in cultural awareness and learning regained its place. Now, this period began to be known as Renaissance. Now, Renaissance was a period of European culture, artistic, political, economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. It's called as the new learning, the rebirth of new ideas, right? So, this is what happened in Europe. Feudalism gives way to nationalism, representative democracy, and a period of new learning, new thought. Now, what happened in England? We say that England emerged as the example of the first modern democracy. So, how did England become a democratic country? Now, you will also ask me that how come England is a democratic government? England has a monarchy, but England has a constitutional monarchy, which means the head of the England, the country, is of course a queen, but she's only a ceremonial head. The entire power lie with the parliament. So how does this happen in England? Now, in England, the spirit of nationalism, the spirit that is the feeling of belonging to one nation began when England defeated Spain in 1588. At that time, British Parliament passed some laws. These laws were first step towards democracy. What were these laws? One was the Bill of Right. Now, just a brief introduction because you will be reading these bills in detail in your grade 8th, but in grade 7th, I will tell you what these rights were. So Bill of Right, it set out certain civil rights, that is the rights which have to be given to the citizens of England, and it also clarified that who will be the next to inherit the crown. Habeas Corpus Act 1679. Now this was also a step closer to democracy. What did it say? It justified or it kind of uh, implied that what are the conditions under which a prisoner will be detained, a prisoner will be kept. It also talked about the lawfulness and unlawfulness of a prisoner's detention. That means how can you detain a prisoner? Now no longer it's a king who says that I will detain you for an unlimited period. Now there had to be some conditions why and how the prisoner will be detained. Then the Mutiny Act of 1689. Initially, before this act, the monarchy had complete control over the military forces in England. But now this act, being the first step, being the step towards democracy, it restricted the monarchy's control over the military forces in England. So these rights were the first step of Britain towards the modern democracy. And that is why Britain emerged as the example of first modern democracy. So, what happened in America? Let's be clear. Now, America was involved in the American War of Independence from 1775 to 83. Now, you will say, was America under somebody? What was this War of Independence? America was under, America had about 13 colonies and it was under England. So it had to fight its War of Independence from 1775 to 83. And during this war, it faced many democratic changes. In fact, after this War of Independence, it had its own first written constitution. So, in that way, America became the first nation to have a written constitution. America also came to be known as the mother of modern democracy. Now this is slightly confusing when a question comes. Now there are two type of questions. One, which country emerged as the example of first modern democracy? Now first modern democracy emerged in Britain. But which country is known as the mother of the modern democracy? That is America. Now, we talked about how the democracy came in England, how it came in America. So, how did it come in France? Even France had to undergo the French Revolution in 1789 AD. Now, this revolution, why did it happen? Because the people wanted to have an elected government. People wanted to have a constitution. So this revolution, it emphasized on the values like liberty, equality, fraternity, and eventually the revolution laid the basis of democracy in France. So by 19th and 20th century, democracy became the most popular form of government across the globe. Now, the third thing that I will be teaching you, what are the main principles that we include in the definition of democracy or in democracy. Now, there are two main principles that are to be included in democracy. Number one, people are supreme. That is what I told you. So, all the citizens enjoy the power to govern themselves through the elected representatives and have an equal access to power. Number two, people enjoy legitimacy or legal freedom and liberties. That means these freedom and liberties are given to them. Now, other principles or features of democracy include universal adult franchise, equality, justice, election, freedom, and rule of law. Now, what do you mean by universal adult franchise? This term will actually come in your grade 8, 9, and 10, and even if you take political science in your plus 1 and plus 2. So the universal means every adult that is having an age of 18, all. Universal means all. Adult means all the people having an age of above 18 franchise the right of vote. That means all adults above the age of 18 have the right to vote. Now these are the main principles which have to be included in the democracy. Let me have my pointer so that it becomes clear to you. We'll have a, which color can we have? We can have a darker blue. Okay, so let me come to this. So first thing that we did was the citizens enjoy the power to govern themselves through the elected representatives, and they have the equal access to power. I told you in the very first slide, the ruler and the ruled are same. Number two principle is that the citizens of the country enjoy legal freedom and liberties. And other important features include the universal adult franchise, equality, justice, election, freedom, and rule of law. Let's move to the next slide. Now, again, we will talk about the process of decision making. We know what is democracy. People have the power. People govern through their elected representatives. People have the freedom. They have their rights. But then who makes the decision? So in a democratic type of government, the decisions are taken by three organs. Now, if you remember, in a monarchical form of government, all the three decisions to make the law, to implement, to see that whether the law is right or wrong was all to be done by the king or a queen. But in democracy, we have three organs. We have the first organ as the legislature, right? The second organ as executive or your executive. Then number three is your judiciary. Now, these are the three organs in a democratic type of government which take the decisions. Most important, they are independent organs. That means all of them have their own individual work. They carry the work of the government. But there is one thing to it, that they work according to the rules and regulations. It's not that the legislature will do anything which they feel. They work according to the rules and regulations. And where are these regulations formed? They are formed in the constitution of the country. Constitution clearly lays down the function and jurisdiction of each organ of the state. Now this slide is very, very important because in democracy, the decisions are taken by three different organs: legislature, executive, and judiciary. And these are independent organs. They work according to the rules and regulations laid down in the constitution. Now, constitution lays down the exact functions and the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means the limit of each organ of the state. What is their work? Right. So first of all, let's do what does the legislature do? Now, first of all, we need to understand what is the legislature. The legislature has two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So what is the duty of the legislature? Can I have a highlighter? I think that will be a much better thing because it will highlight in a very beautiful color, that is yellow. So what is the duty of the legislature? What is the duty of the legislature? It is to make laws. So laws are made by the legislature. And legislature, as I told you, has two houses, the Lok Sabha and they have Rajya Sabha. Right? Okay. Now, legislature is always responsible towards its citizens as one of the houses, that is Lok Sabha, is directly elected by people through elections. And it is the members of the Lok Sabha which form the government, and these elected members are the representatives of the people. So we take the decisions through our elected representatives in the Lok Sabha. Now, what is the work of the executive or executive? What do they do? Now, legislature has made the laws. Now, who will implement them? Those implementation work is done by executive. So it is the work of the executive to implement the laws made by the legislature. Now, what about judiciary? What does it do? Sorry for a little disturbance. Okay, now what is the function of the judiciary? Number one, judiciary is independent. It doesn't depend on anyone. It is absolutely independent. But what is its work? It settles and punishes those people who do not obey the rules and regulations laid down by the legislature. It ensures smooth it ensures smooth working of the government. Smooth working of the government. If any law passed by the legislature is against the welfare of the people, then judiciary can declare that particular law as illegal, because we know in democracy the power is with the people. The work of the government is the welfare of the people. So if any law is passed by legislature which is against the constitutional provisions, then judiciary can declare that law as illegal. Judiciary is free to control both lawmaking and law implementation bodies. And which is the highest judicial body of India? That is the Supreme Court of India. So process of decision making is very time consuming, but it is well balanced. Legislature to make the laws, executive to implement the laws, judiciary to ensure smooth working of the law, to see that any law, if it is passed against the welfare of people or against the constitutional provisions, can declare that law illegal. Now, there's a very special paragraph in your book which says that nowadays executive takes part in all the decision making policies. How? Now, executive actively leads in all the decision making policies which are approved by legislature later. Executive, which is answerable to people, takes major decisions relating to the functioning of the government. Any wrong decision taken by the executive may lead to the downfall of government before the completion of their term. Now, what constitutes the executive? Very important. It is the Prime Minister along with his ministers, and at a subordinate level, even the IS and the PCS officers, right? So it is the whole set of administration which is to make the implementation of the law. Right. Now, all these elected. So I told you executive is the ministers. It is the prime minister. So along with the civil servants, these three form the executive. So all the elected ministers are helped by these civil servants to discharge their duties, and the civil servants are elected through IS examinations. So even these bureaucrats form the non-political executive. These civil servants do not belong to any political party, but they serve the government and not the elected representatives. Now, I also wanted to tell you that you must be feeling that do all the countries have democratic form of government? No. According to UN, only 123 countries only 123 countries have democratic governments. So, can we have the name of governments which do not have democracy? Okay, the very first is Qatar. Now, Qatar has an absolute monarchy where it is ruled by one person. They have unrestricted wealthy political power. Then the other one is your Cuba. Cuba is a communist state, and all the power here belongs to wealthy group of the country. It is the wealthy group of country which takes all the decision. Then China. China doesn't have a democratic form of government. It is the biggest communist state. It is run by a single party, which is the Communist Party of China. Communist Party of China. They have proper control over its population as they do not want China to be influenced by Western ideologies. There's another country, Saudi Arabia, where the king of Saudi Arabia makes all the decisions and the government is based on the Islamic law. So there are few of the examples. You have more examples. So these countries do not have democratic form of government. Only 123 countries in the world have democratic form of government. All right. So in the beginning, we talked about two forms of government. One is two forms of democracy. One is the direct democracy. Number two is the indirect democracy. See, democracy will remain the same. Democracy means the rule of the people, where they take part in the decision-making process, where people have their freedom, their rights. But again, that is of two types. Now, in the direct democracy, the power is directly in the hands of the people. It is in the hands of the assembly of people who want to participate. Whereas in indirect democracy, we do not directly participate in the decision making of the government. So then how do we participate? We participate through our elected representatives. That is your MLA. So that means first we elect people in the Lok Sabha, then the Lok Sabha or the parliament, they form the laws. So directly we are participating in the process indirectly. Whereas in direct democracy, the citizens participate directly, but indirect, we participate but through our elected representatives. Now, the most important country which gives this direct democracy is Switzerland. It gives its citizens to take direct part in the decision making. Whereas the indirect democracy is also known as the representative democracy. So that is the another name for indirect democracy. Now here, this assembly might pass executive motions like laws, elect or dismiss officials, even conduct trials. But in democracy, in indirect democracy, we have three forms of political action. It's written in your big book: initiative, referendum, and recall. So very importantly, in direct democracy, people participate directly. In indirectly, people participate through the elected representatives. And indirect democracy is also known as representative democracy. So let's see, what is this initiative, referendum, and recall? Now, initiative means voters can adopt a change. For example, whenever in India a law is being passed, so what the government does, it just puts it on the website. It asks suggestions from the people and then they formally frame the law. Referendum means it's a system of voting where you may disapprove a law passed by the legislature. That is referendum, some kind of voting. Then is recall. You can remove an elected official from the office if that person is not doing his or her job in the right way. Now, most important question, we talk about the forms of government, but what is a government? Now, government is a body within an organization which has the authority to make and enforce laws. Now, the government could be let me have my pointer. The government could be at the local level or could be at the national level, and their main objective is to promote the welfare of subjects. Now, let me just explain it to you as An example from your school. Now, who is in charge of the administration of the school? Who takes important decisions? So, in day to day functioning, it is the government, it is the executive which takes the important decisions. So, it could be even, at a organizational level, it could be the board of directors, it could be the board of directors, it could be the managers, it could be the governor, and in your home, it could be your parents who take control of all the decisions that they have to take. So government is nothing but a body which has the authority to make and enforce rules, laws, and regulation. Now, in your book, they have given you 6 different types of government. One, monarchy. Number two, constitutional monarchy. Number three, constitutional republic, dictatorship, authoritarianism, and totalitarianism. So let's understand what does this mean. Now, what happens in monarchy? Now, monarchy means rule by king or a queen. So, sometimes the king is known as emperor. In monarchy, it is a hereditary form of government, which means the rule passes from one person to another, could be from the same family, from the father to his eldest son, then to the other person. So, monarchy is ruled by king or a queen known as emperor. It is a hereditary form of government, and rule plus passes from one person to another. So then what is constitutional monarchy? Constitutional monarchy means the monarch is still there. There is a king or a queen, but his or her powers are strictly limited. So this is a very, very important point. It is strictly limited by a popularly elected government. So just like in UK, you have a queen, she is the ceremonial head, but the power is exercised by the parliament. So that means a monarch, a king or a queen whose powers are limited by the constitution. As I told you, in the UK, the Queen is the ceremonial head. The power is entirely with the Parliament. So we have done 2 forms of government, monarchy and the constitutional monarchy. So this is if you could find the example. Now this is how the monarch is a queen, an emperor, and this is what happens in UK. The Queen is the ceremonial head, but the real power is in the hands of the Parliament. Okay, constitutional republic. Now, this is what we have in India. It is a rule by a government consisting of the representatives elected by the people on the basis of universal adult franchise. Now, these elected representatives of people make and enforce laws. Just that we have in India, we elect the MLAs and MPs, they form the government, we are participating in the decisions of the government through our elected representatives, right? Now, and in the constitutional republic, everything goes by the supreme law of the land, that is constitution. Now, number 2 is dictatorship. Now, what is dictatorship? Now, dictatorship is a rule. It is by an individual, one person, and he has the full power over the country. But despite having all the power, he is not responsible, he is not answerable to the people. So, dictator could be one person, like Fidel Castro in Cuba and Adolf Hitler in Germany. You must have heard about Hitler. So, he was a dictator. He would do whatever he found was right for his people in Germany. Now, under dictatorship, the country is ruled by a single leader. That's very important. So, dictatorship is a rule by an individual who has full power. He is not responsible or answerable to people, and it is ruled by a single leader. Let's have a look at the example. Now, let me just speak a little more about it. But before that, let me show you the picture. Now, this is what a constitutional republic is, that you have a constitution, your head of the state is elected, right? And this is the picture of Hitler, and how, if you could see this sign, this is the sign of his party, Nazi party, swastika sign. Now, let's just do a little more about it. Now, what do you mean by republic? Time and again, this will be asked to you. Now, remember, republic is a country that has no monarch. So, India is a republic. We do not have a monarch. So who is the head of the country? Head of the country is a president, and he is elected president. He is not nominated, right? He is elected by the electoral college. So republic is a country which does not have a monarch, where the head of the country is an elected person. Just like in India, we have president who is elected by the electoral college. So yes, India is a republic. Now, in dictatorship, the leader is not elected. He may use force to keep people under his control. And even here, people have restricted rights. Though they do not enjoy all the rights, they have restricted right, and even these rights depend on the will of the ruler. He may or may not give these rights. So military dictatorship, where army is in control of the leader, who may be the general of the army. So military dictatorship is where the general of the army is the supreme head of the state. I've talked about these pictures. Now, totalitarianism and authoritarianism. Now, this is very confusing. Just understand one thing. This is the line which will explain everything to you. Totalitarianism is an extreme form of authoritarianism. That means they are somewhat similar, but totalitarianism is much more extreme of authoritarianism. So what are these two? Now, first is totalitarianism. What is in this? In this, what happens? The total control is by state. State regulates nearly every aspect of public and even one's private life. In short, this is a country with one political power. That is total power in the hand of the state. It is the state which will decide what to do, even your public life, your private life. That is totalitarianism. That is, state regulates every aspect of public and private life. The country will have only one political party. People are forced to do what governments tell them, and they may be prevented from leaving the country. Now, in today's world, I will give you example later, but in the olden times, we can have example from Nazism, as I told you, and your fascism. So this was a type of government which will classify under totalitarianism, which means the state had total control over people, and there is only one political party. People will do what their governments tell them, and they may not be allowed to leave the country. Now, a much more simpler form of this is authoritarianism. See, these two are quite similar, but the only thing I told you that totalitarianism is the extreme form of authoritarianism. Now, what is authoritarianism? That is characterized by emphasis on the authority of a person or a group of leader. Here, the political system is controlled by not an elected member, but a non-elected ruler. He may have come by revolution or by a coup. That is, when the army takes over. So authority, that means the entire authority is in that person or the group of leaders. Now, in the 19th century, this is what was happening in the France. And then the people of France revolted against their rulers, and they had a democratic republic in France. So these are the forms of democracy. Now, this is totalitarianism, means the state controls in totality. That is in extreme form. That means you can't leave the country, no liberties are given to you. Authoritarianism means it is something like totalitarianism, but less जिसे हम कहेंगे बच्चे कि उससे थोड़ा सा जो डिग्री ऑफ अगर हम डिग्री में कंपेयर करें तो उससे थोड़ा सा कम डिग्री जो है दैट इज अथॉरिटेरियनिज्म. इसमें अथॉरिटी जो है एक लीडर भी हो सकता है, ग्रुप ऑफ लीडर्स भी हो सकता है, एंड सारा का सारा डिसीजन मेकिंग जो है यही अथॉरिटी रूल करती है. Now this is the most important thing which I do for you in the end. By chance, if you feel that you don't want to see the entire video again and again, first you see the video, and next time when you can always come to these questions and see how much have you learned from your original book and your notebook. So very first question, what do you mean by the word democracy? Now, democracy has been derived from two Greek words, demos, which means people, kratos, which means rule or government. Number two question, give some essential features of democracy. So, what are the features? Most important, I will just mark it from here. Where is my, okay, it's here. Now, so let me just point here at A, then this is B, this is C. So I have given you 5 points in this, right? So what are the features of the government? One, people are the main power of the main powers in the democracy, right? They elect their own representatives. Then democracy is based on equality. Every citizen is equal, equal before the eyes of law. Now, number three, every individual is provided with some basic fundamental rights. Number four, democracy follows the rule of law. Everyone should abide by the law. In democracy, judiciary is independent from other institutions. So let me just revise it with you. What are the essential features of democracy? One, people are the main power. Number two, it is based on equality. Number three, every individual must have some basic fundamental rights, and these rights cannot be violated, cannot be taken away. Democracy follows the rule of law, and here in democracy, judiciary is independent. Okay, is India a republic? I had discussed this. Now, republic is a state where supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and the head of the state is not a monarch, it's rather an elected head. Yes, India is a republic because the supreme power is held by people and its elected representatives. The head of the state is president, who is elected through the electoral college. Name the two types of democracy, direct, indirect. Name the three organs of state, executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now, what is the duty of legislature, executive, and judiciary? I told you the most important duty of legislature is to make laws, of executive is to implement the laws made by the legislature. Judiciary, it is independent in taking its decision. It settles disputes, punishes those people who do not obey the rules and regulations. It ensures smooth working of the government. If a law passed by legislature is against the welfare of the people, then judiciary can declare those laws as illegal. Right. Now, see, anything, you can't say that everything is perfect. So, are there any defects of democracy? What are those defects? See, decision making is very slow because so many people need to be consulted. Now, in a dictatorship, it's only one person. Whatever he wants to do, he thinks about, he does it. But in democracy, it is not the same. Whenever you want to create a law, there's a procedure to pass the law. The law has to pass by both the houses of the legislature. Then it goes to the president for its signature. So it takes a lot of time. Secondly, it leads to corruption, right? Now, how is democracy better than other forms of government? Democracy is, of course, the most brilliant form of government. How? Let me have my pointer. Now, there's an A point, there is a B point, there is C point. Now, A point, we find people's representation in democracy, in dictatorship, in monarchy, in authoritarianism, in totalitarianism. You don't find people participating. But in democracy, we find people's participation in the governance. So people have the power to participate in government affairs through their representative. It is democracy which gives its citizens the freedom of expression, speech, and vote to citizens. So obviously, democracy will be the best form. We have the people's representation, people participate in the government affairs, people are given the freedom of expression, of speech. You can write anything, you can speak anything, and you also have the right to vote. Now, most important question, what are the essential conditions for successful working of democracy? Now, if I say a country has only one political party, but we say that party is being elected, so will you say that that country is democratic? No, that country is not democratic because we have not given some choices to the people. It is the people who should be given the choices so that they can have the government of their choice. When you have only one political party, then that country cannot be called as a democratic country. So, what are the essential working conditions for democracy? A system of government in which the real authority of government remains with people is democracy. But they are essential conditions for the successful working of democracy. Number one, let me have my pointer because that will explain it. Number one, constitution needs to be followed in true spirit. Whatever laws and regulations, jurisdiction, powers have been mentioned, that should be followed. So constitution needs to be followed in the true spirit. Then right to choose the government from the best available alternatives. Right, that means if you only have one party, then how will you choose the government of your choice? There was a Congress government about 2 terms back, but this time we chose the government of the best government that we wanted to choose. We chose BJP. So that is how this is democracy, when you give people the choice to choose their own government. Then is right to be elected without any discrimination, without the discrimination of being a female, a male, belonging to any particular sect, belonging to any particular caste community. So they have the right to be elected without any discrimination. Free and fair conduct of elections, civil rights, civil liberties, and human rights. Now, quickly, just the last slide for your questions. Which country is known as the mother of modern democracy? That is America. There could be another question as which country emerged as the example of first modern democracy? That is England. Question number 12. Dash became the first nation to have the written constitution, America. French Revolution was in 1789 AD. American War of Independence 1775 to 1783 AD. When was the preamble adopted? See, preamble. Now, you might question that what is preamble? Preamble is the basis of our constitution. It is just like you have the chapters in the beginning of your book, that when you start with the book you have the list of chapters, that this is what you include in the book. So preamble is the basic, it gives the basic thing, that what is constitution all about. So when was the preamble adopted? You might question me that where is it written in the book, but if you see very clearly, it has been mentioned in one of your highlighted paragraphs. The preamble was adopted on 26th November 1949, and this could be a question which your teacher may ask you, because nowadays she will be asking you questions from the book itself. So that becomes very important. Preamble was adopted on 26th November 1949. The last question, name the country having direct democracy. That's a very simple one, Switzerland. So I hope I have done this chapter. I have done this chapter to your full liking, to your full understanding, right? I will be waiting for your answers, for your comments in the comment section. I would be greatly motivated if you say the video was nice, and you can give some positive comments. If you feel that there could be a better way of teaching civics, you can again give me your comments. I will be waiting for that. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. But before I leave you, I just want to give you a brief thing about the forms of government. You may consider them. Let's have a look at this. One is monarchy, constitutional republic, dictatorship, totalitarianism, authoritarianism. So let's just briefly do that. Actually, I had revised so much with you that I felt that maybe I should skip this slide, but now I feel I must, because this will give you an overall view. It will enhance your understanding. First is your monarchy. See, monarchy is a rule by king or a queen. Constitutional monarchy, again a rule by a king or a queen. Then constitutional republic, it's a rule by government consisting of elected representatives. Dictatorship, it's a rule by single leader. Totalitarianism, rule by state. Authoritarianism, it is emphasis on the authority of the state. So this is something like a comparative analysis I want to give. Now, how are the decisions made? Number one, in your monarchy. Now, in monarchy, the monarch is the center of power. He only takes the decision. For example, the Arab countries. In the constitutional monarchy, the power of the monarch is limited by the constitution. So the real power is in the hands of the parliament. Example, UK, where queen is only a ceremonial head. Now, how are the decisions taken in the constitutional republic? They are taken by the three organs of the state, that is legislature, executive, judiciary. Example, India. How are the decisions taken in dictatorship? The decision is taken by the dictator. He is not answerable to any people. He is only answerable to himself, right? So decisions are taken exclusively by the dictator. Examples, North Korea and Afghanistan. Totalitarianism, how is the decisions taken? The decision is taken by a single political party. Decision is taken by the state. They will actually they control your public and private life. Now, authoritarianism, the decisions are taken by the authority. Authority could be the state, could be a person, just like a dictator. Again, I would emphasize on this that these are the various forms of government, and in dictatorship, totalitarianism, and authoritarianism, there is a difference of degree. Dictator is ruled by a single leader, not by a single party. In totalitarianism, it is a rule by state. The state will control both the public and private life. In authoritarianism, the emphasis is on the authority of the state. Here, the decision may be taken by one person or by a group of persons. Now, out of this all, totalitarianism is the most extreme form of government. So I will end with this. I think I have explained the chapter in full detail, right? Thank you so much for watching this video. Any type of comments, I'm waiting for you. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Have a great day.